So highlighting treatment planning and assessment starting off, this module is really about four key things. One is we want to make sure we engage our young people. So being able to have that conversation about, we want to talk about not just what's wrong with you, but what has happened to you, how we got to this place. And I don't only want to hear, I want to help. I don't only want to hear, I want to help. And allowing them sometimes to express themselves in ways with words or styles that otherwise they may not feel comfortable sharing some of the most difficult feelings. So how many of you have had, I can't, and some people don't have their cameras on today, so you could click the hand if you like, but how many of you have had clients curse in sessions? Okay, and if you see, I won't follow up and say how many of them cursed at you, right? Well, they start say because they're upset and it's intense, right? And they're probably watching. This person say they're here to help me. Do they really want to know who I am? Do they really want to hear how I feel about being here? Do they really want to hear how I feel? And when I say things like disclosing loss or disclosing anger or even disclosing, I want to take somebody out or I'm going to retaliate. Does that therapist, do you as a provider, do we kind of jerk back? Do we cringe? Or are we like, I hear you, I feel you. I understand those feelings. I got it. And kind of show we're hanging in there with them as they disclose things. That's a big part of engagement. Being also to drop in not only what you're struggling with, but what's your strengths? What would you like somebody to know about you that they don't know? What's something good about you, right? That's part of that trauma-informed approach. And we want to bring that in as we talk about not only the treatment plan for how we're going to help you with school, classroom, with your new, home placements, how you're going to navigate the crowded house that you now find yourself in and all these other things. We're going to talk about what's the motivation to do this. What's the motivation to talk? What can get better? What's in a way of getting better? What have you tried before? Who's helped you when you've tried that before? Have you been kind of struggling on your own and that's why it didn't work? So you're looking at what's the obstacles and what's the inspiration for them to hang in there and talking about what they want out of life, what they might want from the school, what they might want that might engage them, inspire them to be able to have a client-centered treatment plan versus just a standard, insurance validated one, right? I use popular culture, I use sports, I use music, I use movies, I use whatever I need to let them know. I want to hear from you and what you're interested in, and let's try to keep that as part of our conversations as we're pointing out ways we can move forward. Does that make sense to folks? Okay. And also, I want to highlight that was a very good job by the school staff, right? Sound like one of us, right? Who when they saw the fight happen, what did she do? What did they do? They didn't just say, "Oh my God, you better check your behavior up, or you're gonna end up here, there, or dead, or you're gonna beat your brother gonna beat you behind, or da da da." It's like, how did you sleep? How did you eat? How are you feeling? Did you talk to your aunt about that? Looks like you're hungry. Well, here's a meal. Actually, here's 2 meals. And just having that soothing, supportive presence, that's an important component of healing, right? And so I think that's one of the things. And if you were to see that whole documentary, you see something very powerful. And she was talking about her role in the school. She's like, I'm the nurse, I'm the priest, I'm the counselor, I'm the parent, I'm the older sister, I'm the older aunt. Just talking about the need to have a multifaceted approach when you have young people who, although their behavior is the focus, have a multiplicity of needs that's contributing toward that behavior. So just the behavior management program by itself will be largely ineffective, especially if there's no relationship to motivate them to want to try what we're asking them to do. Does that make sense to folks? We also talk about care across systems. So if I can get extracurricular activities as some alternatives, I'll do that. If I have to do, like you saw demonstrated, I might get them, if they're not already accessing the breakfast program, If there's an opportunity for extra lunch, there's a few schools which will hook you up. If I can get them in an extended program, get them to go to after school program so they could get that snack, or sometimes they could get a meal because it's a full service school. If there's like Saturday community opportunities that I can seamlessly link them to, whatever I can do to get them connected. And let me underscore, mentorship. Mentor programs are critical, right? And mentor doesn't mean, we have mental health background. I'm just keeping it real. Mentorship doesn't mean we sitting across from each other in chairs and talking. Sometimes mentorship, we taking a walk together and we kicking it. Sometimes mentorship, we throwing a ball back and forth while we talking about life. And honestly, sometimes with mentorship, we're not talking at all. We're not talking at all. We don't always have to be processing the talking cure to be healing. Sometimes just your presence in a supportive way is a critical component to go along with the talk treatment. So I believe there's always community activities and options that can contribute to what we're doing as professionals. And I'm gonna be honest, some of our young people have not had the system or the adults around them earn and maintain their trust. So why should they trust us when they meet us? They are very wise to make you earn their trust, their respect, and earn the opportunity to hear how they're feeling. It's almost like, that movie Good Will Hunting. I don't know how many of you saw that. Antoine Fisher. I could go down the line. There's a whole bunch of times when, especially adolescents, they're going to test you. They're like, do you really want? Well, you're going to have to earn it. And let them know, hey, I'm here and I'm going to be here, is critical to ultimately at some point being able to share. The other thing that happens, and this also is related to the young kids on the playground, is safety mapping, right? I have always worked in neighborhoods that have high degrees of community violence, interpersonal violence, and I'll also say oppressive state violence. All right, I have to say that as well, including unfair school disciplinary rules and other things. That being said, we have to find some place you have at least a sense of safety. If I have no sense of safety, meaning at least some place I could feel relatively safer, so I think being safe is an option, why try? If I feel like every single place I go, I'm going to be a target and I'm going to get hit sooner or later, why try? Just be risky. Just don't care, because you're not going to live anyway, right? But if I have a sense of safety, is there a particular time of the day I could talk to a particular person, or I could go to a particular activity, or I could go to a particular neighborhood store, or I could go visit a friend or a relative, right? That I have a sense of safety, then you're telling me that I don't always have to rely on aggression and violence as my protective mechanism. But if I don't have a sense of safety, that it's at least an option to not be aggressive. Why would I not be aggressive? If I don't have a sense, why would I not get a gun? Everybody else got one. Or you got a gun, I'm gonna get a bat, I'm gonna get a knife, I'm gonna get something, right? And I'm gonna use it, because that's the way to keep people off me. Unless you give me a sense of safety. For example, I have a lot of conversations with young people about making a distinction between self-defense and silly aggression. And I keep it real with them. Now, you come kicking in my door in the middle of the night, start threatening my family. Now, we ain't gonna have but a short conversation. I'll give you an opportunity. Now, you're not moving, it's gonna be on. I'll be honest with you. But if you look at me wrong when I'm in the street, or you cut me in line at the Jewel, right? I'm not gonna make them. I might choose to let that one go because I got some other goals. And I know I don't have to worry about, oh, I let you cut in front of me at Jewel. So the next thing you know, you're gonna be taking my chain or taking my wallet. And then the next thing you're gonna be picking on me at school, and the next. So you cutting in front of me at Jewel is a life and death situation to me. Being able to step back and do that safety planning and have a sense of being able to regulate and recognize triggers and having that conversation up front, I'm setting a framework for other options. Not saying the only option is turn the other cheek, but I need other options in my toolkit to be able to survive. Why? Because I got goals. And there's something good about me. And I just told you what it is. And that's something you're telling me I might be able to achieve. That's something you think is praiseworthy. Okay, so now I'll think about it. Is this making sense to folks? But unless you engage me in this type of conversation, just talking about, oh, Jaleel, you may get hurt, or oh, Jaleel, you may get shot, or oh, Jaleel, you shouldn't fight. Oh, no, maybe I shouldn't, but it's more complicated than that to me. So you got to speak to my level of complication and what has contributed to me being at this point. Or it's just preachy, and adolescents tune you out in a second. Soon as you start lecturing. And so for me, I can tell you a couple of tips that I recommend with this type of manual or my approach, and may not work for everybody, but I'm saying these are some toolkits or tools you could keep in your kit. Is one, I definitely believe in authenticity. So I might tell you, it didn't work before. You sitting right here in front of me, or you may be in a worse place than you was before. Treatment means we're partnering moving forward, and I got to find the right thing for you. But I think I've helped other kids, or I've helped other adolescents. So now we got to work together to see what's going to work for you. Secondly, I don't talk like maybe those other therapists, or maybe I'm talking to you the same way, but at a different time in your life. And we're going to start building off your strength. Maybe those strengths weren't brought into it. Did your last therapist ask you about, your strength or what's good about you or what your goals are and how you're going to achieve that, and then try to walk you through a practical plan for achieving it? Did they talk about safety? Did they keep it real with you? Okay, this is different. This is different. I'm going to be different, but you know what? Check and see. Let's see. Give me a chance, and I'm giving you a chance. Depending on how far you want to go, but I'll tell some kids, like, look, you see, oh, 4 or 5 fights, you did this. Oh, I've heard this before. I've seen kids like you before. Why should I think you're different? Well, I'm not. I know. See, same way this way. Let's work together around this, right? Secondly, I say, well, you might not have tried those techniques the way I do them. Like, it's a whole different conversation talking about relaxation techniques versus breath control. And I've had kids like, man, I ain't breathing. I know how to breathe already. It's like, let's talk about breath control like when you're doing rhymes and spoken words. Like, okay, you do that, right? Okay, we're just going to build it in for when you get upset too. Have you done that type of exercise? No, I haven't done. Okay, that's how this is different. Give me a chance and let's see. I think you brought up another point, which is equally challenging. Okay, I don't even know if you intended to take us down this route, but these kids who've been in treatment, they know what to say. They know the buzzwords. Oh yeah, I have to control myself, and oh yeah, I'm gonna tell you my narrative in it. But it may not be working for them, but they know the language of treatment. Or they may have been passed from one therapist to another over the years where it's like, this is now boring to me. I think we kind of tapped out. And so I usually try to have direct conversations with them about that. I definitely acknowledge their viewpoints. I'll try to find where something I'm doing might be different in its style, or it's going to deal with them at a different point in their life. Because like you started that when you was in 6th grade, now you're in 9th. A whole bunch of new stuff. Let's try it now. Anything I can to re-engage them, to say, give me a chance and let's do it with a style that motivates you and connects to your goals. Right? That's my way. And if I need to, talk about, NBA season about to start. What'd you think about the old man? Chief Keef did this, and wow, I didn't like that last Drake album. And whatever I need to sprinkle in there to keep them engaged, that's what also makes it somewhat of a different experience for some of the young people. But at the end of the day, you and I and everyone has to show and prove. So even if they're excited to work with us, they have to see us do this, and they have to see some incremental changes, at least in their life. And sometimes if change doesn't happen right away, we got a label for that. Like we could talk about is you didn't get in trouble overnight, you ain't gonna get rid of trouble overnight. So you hanging in there with the process, and I might map that onto the process as something they like. Like, right, when I talk about getting better at stuff, there's kids who like sports, for example, that I deal with. I tell them, like, first time you put up a jump shot, you probably shooting air balls. You stop shooting, or you kept practicing, adjusting, tweaking, get your elbow right. And see, and you start talking those details of things that's important to me, like, because they're interested. And the only thing we're doing, we're taking those evidence-based approaches, but we're putting them into the appropriate cultural context. And we're engaging and motivating them by dropping in things that they're interested in. And if, as we work together, and if I was down in Champaign, I would want Champaign examples. Who are the key people in Champaign? Who are the inspirational examples in Champaign? What are activities that people are doing in Urbana? What can I mention or name drop about the university, or some try activity, or something Karen did, or something Patricia did, or Kelly did? I'm gonna drop that stuff in there, and they're like, oh, okay, I can connect this to my daily reality. This is not just a theoretical discussion now. But if I come and say, you know what, you have to have more self-regulation, where, how, with whom, in what situation, and that's where we lose some of our folks.